Hi, my name is Wendy Francis. I'm the National Director of Politics for the Australian Christian Lobby. Any of you who have watched my videos before, me speaking, you will have seen my guest on videos with me, and that is Alister Cameron. And so, Alister, thank you very much for joining me today on the other side of the camera. I've got Alister here because he's actually running now for an upper house position for the northeastern metropolitan region in the Victorian election. And so I'm grateful to you. You're running with Family First. Just wanted to have a quick discussion with you so that we can let our people know what you stand for and what Family First stands for. So thanks for joining me.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me, Wendy. I really appreciate it.
I'm just going to start really broad. Family First, it says it in the name, what you stand for, but I looked on your website and it says that some of the things that are most important to you are actually putting Victorian families first in this election. So it goes with your name, but what does that actually mean, Alister? Can you just outline what it means?
Yeah, well, look, let me speak personally. I guess I'm here because I'm fed up. I can't take it anymore. For nearly 10 years of my life was a single parent with 4 children. So I think I know a fair bit about what parenting's about. I think I know a fair bit about what families are about. And we're staring headlong into the abyss in some ways at the moment. You can call it cultural Marxism, you can call it radical political correctness or wokeism. There's a religion. I mean, this thing is a religion. And it's really reaching into our families, reaching into our own private lives and saying, get out of the way, I'm the boss here now. So it's really a zealotry that would, I think, put other religions to shame. Obviously, it's reflected in the current gender madness that's infecting our school curricula. It's behind all the talk of treaty and First Nation stuff. I mean, there's good things in these, but what I'm saying is it just brings a different lens on a lot of the issues that we care about, and then just takes them in a crazy direction. And it's a lot behind the decarbonisation agenda as well. And it's funny, they believe in freedom of religion as long as it's their religion. Otherwise, they're not interested.
So there's a couple of things, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. There's
a
couple of things I want to pick up on that because I want to talk to you more about the gender fluid ideology stuff because Victoria has really led the way in some of that madness. But I also just want to pick up on the religious freedom that you mentioned. So certainly Andrew Thorburn, what happened to him with the Essendon Football Club, that has raised the awareness, particularly I'd say in Victoria, of the need for religious freedom, real religious freedom. And so on your website, again, you say that religious freedom is under attack, but what can you do about that? And what do you intend to do? And what is your response, I guess, to what happened with Andrew Thorburn?
Well, I mean, what happened to Andrew Thorburn is pretty shocking in the sense that he didn't personally do anything. It was sort of guilt by association to an Anglican church. Let that settle for a minute. That is really pretty shocking. And I think a lot of Victorians, even people not really of any particularly strong religious conviction, are looking at that and saying something's changed. It wasn't just the Premier who came out and used words like bigotry and hatred and so forth, which are they're just baseball bat words. They don't really have any strong substance of meaning. It's really about sort of virtue signaling where you stand on things. But really dangerous stuff, particularly that we're talking about a mainline denomination with mainline views that have been Orthodox Christianity for 2,000 years. It's hunting season on Christians now. It's hunting season on people, I think you've used the phrase, Wendy, people of Abrahamic faith. And I think Muslims, Jews and Christians need to understand we have a premier in our state and a government that is against us, that sees no place for us in significant conversations in significant places of authority like a football club. This is new. This is uncharted territory. And for Family First, this is an agenda for us now to really stand up and say, this is not on. This is unacceptable in a society where we are secular and we are pluralistic and we are inviting and we are welcoming and we dare to use language like tolerance and inclusion. Well, come on now. What do you want? What do you really mean? And we're going to call the government to account. And we're going to make sure that people of all religious convictions and none stand on an equal footing in law and in the culture of how we operate as Australians. Everybody deserves a fair go. That's the Australian way.
So the other thing I picked up before and wanted to go back to was particularly about children and the whole affirmation push, particularly that I think really it started in Victoria. So we've got parents who are increasingly, I would say, fearful, parents who are fearful and with good reason, because they're being shut out of their children's lives in regard to discussions around gender ideology. It's frightening. It's frightening for me to think that the Daniel Andrews government has given a green light to, for instance, the Victorian Department of Education to transition children without parental consent or even knowledge. And so you've mentioned this. I'll bring it back to you. What do we do? What do we do about this? And what's Family First going to do about this?
Well, look, Family First is committed to do everything that we can do within the capacities that we will have, hopefully on a very interesting crossbench in a reconfigured parliament on the other side of the election. We want to say the things that people think but are afraid to say because they need to be said, even if parliamentary privilege is the way to do it. For example, there is a classroom I know of in the sort of the Ringwood area of Melbourne, in my area, in my upper house region, where the majority of all the students in that primary school classroom are quote unquote gender diverse. Now that says only one thing. It says social contagion, but you're not allowed to say social contagion. We're going to say it, and we're going to challenge the powers and authorities to say this is unacceptable. You cannot turn a social contagion into surgery, into hormone treatment. You can't get in the way of parents' relationship with their children in this way. And we'll use every device available to us to make sure that this stops. We can have elaborate conversations about the affirmative model versus the wait and see model, the scientific rigor behind those things. There have been no inquiries. There's been no serious work done. And we know that there's an avalanche of legal cases coming from children or adults perhaps in the future detransitioning, realizing they made terrible mistakes. I'm not here to say that there aren't legitimate people with legitimate concerns and dysphorias and the trans thing is a real thing. But there's a big difference between that and what we're experiencing today. And that needs to be called out. That needs to be made crystal clear. And we need to deal with it in a responsible way. And dare I say, a remotely scientific way.
So you mentioned the crossbench and how important it is to keep account of the government, keep them to check. So why should people vote for you if they are in the Northeastern Metropolitan Region? And how important is that upper house? How important is that check on the government?
It's always important. It's important in a different way in every election, so you kind of have to take it as it stands. As it currently stands, the Victorian Labor government is trying in increasingly desperate measures to deal with what it considers its most existential threat, which is not a threat from the right, it's a threat from the left. They're watching a younger generation move towards the Greens in increasing numbers. So they're making overtures to the sorts of issues that appeal to people that are tempted to move further left than the Labor Party. Then you've got and so that's obviously bad news, right? Then you've got the Liberal Party right now, who I dare say, I think it's pretty obvious on its face, are facing an identity crisis, and we can have discussions about why that might be, but I think it's clearly evident. And so a vote for the Liberal Party, unfortunately, right now in this moment, is not a guaranteed vote for the things that people of a conservative political and social disposition hold dear. And so it's really important for a party like Family First to stand up, where our credentials, where we're coming from, we are issues-based, we are principle-based, we will always vote according to those family values. It's clearly articulated, it's clearly stated, there's no other way we're going to operate. Secondly, in this moment where the data suggests that there might actually be a weakening of both the Liberal and the Labor Party in the upper house, a broader crossbench. Now that crossbench on a bad day could be filled with all kinds of weird and wonderful micro parties of the left, single issue parties. They want cannabis, they want this, they want that, whatever. But there's also a tremendous opportunity for parties on the centre right, and that's where we sit as Family First. And so we're really excited by that opportunity. And we think it presents us with an opportunity where, even in relatively small numbers, we could theoretically hold what they call a balance of power. And that would be very, very exciting. And it's a prayer point, if nothing else.
So everybody, I've been talking to Alister Cameron. Alister is the candidate in the Victorian election for Family First. He is sitting in the upper house. He is running for the upper house position for the Northeastern Metropolitan Region. Thank you, Alister, very much for your time.
Wendy, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.